It's checking in with Anthony and Glenn, teaching you to be the hotelier that you wanna be. It's checking in with Anthony and Glenn.
Oh, that's good.
Love it.
You're good.
I love it.
You're good.
All right. Woo! We are coming to you live on recording from the Stonebridge Companies conference in Denver, Colorado. Anthony, how you doing today, man?
Glenn, why do you have so much energy today? You're scaring the crap out of me.
Can I tell you? I always scare the crap out of you. You should be used.
Sometimes you're at the podcast and you're like, hey, what's up?
Right.
Like today, you're extraordinary.
Just like your podcast. But yeah, the reason why I'm like this, the reason why I'm such a freak on these things is because there's a lot of nervous energy that I have. I feel all of it in the room, and I'm always so afraid that I'm going to screw something up fundamentally that I overcompensate.
That's what I love about Glenn, because he means that. It's true. One day I asked him, I said something, and he goes, you know what, Anthony? I'm just an hour from a sandwich and a nap. I'm always just an hour from a sandwich and a nap. And I was like, you kind of are.
Yeah.
You kind of are.
And I think all of you can relate to that, because I still see myself as that kid on the playground just desperately hoping I'm not the last one picked for kickball. Always the last one picked for kickball. Made for a very difficult childhood.
And you hope that little insecure guy that looks like he's only 4 feet tall with the big ears doesn't kick my ass, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, you got street toughs. I had suburban softness, so it was it's a little difficult.
Suburban softness. Yeah. We're not going to go there.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
You just now, before I got on stage, you told me what we were going to talk about because I didn't know. And we were going to talk about friction, right? And I'll let you explain that. But first, since you left your house, when did you leave your house? Yesterday?
I left my house yesterday morning at 8 a.m. New York time.
And you're here now?
Yep.
So it's over 24 hours?
Yep.
What was the one thing in your travel experience that gave you aggravation, friction?
The one thing?
One thing. One.
There's just so many. But I think that the one thing was just getting my ass out of the house and worrying about the traffic that I was going to have on the Parkway going to JFK Airport. It could take an hour for me to get there. It could take 2 hours for me to get there. I never know how much time it's going to take for me to get there. So I always wind up at the airport way too early or way too late, way too stressful, too much friction.
All right. I mean, how many people in this audience think I get to the airport exactly on time? Raise your hand. How many people think I'm late all the time? Raise your hand. How many people think I'm at the airport 2 hours early? Raise your hand. Always 2 hours early. I've never missed a flight.
Yeah. I've been trying real hard.
So just, this traffic is New York, bro.
Yeah, my goal in 2019 is to try to get that down to like an hour and a half.
All right, so any friction where somebody just made your life worse in the last 24 hours?
Well, the whole travel experience is very stressful. And the reason why we're talking about this is I'm thinking about what the guests go through on their journey. But Anthony, we had the fortune at the end of February, you hosted this great panel at the Forbes Verified 5-Star event. And one of the panelists was Ken Cornick, who's the president and co-founder of Clear. I don't know if any of you out there have heard of Clear. Anyone sign up for Clear yet? Yeah, do it verbally so the audio audience can hear it. Who signed up for Clear? All right.
Who's a Clear member? Raise your hand if you're a Clear member.
All right, so
wow, it's about 25%.
About a third of the room is a Clear member, which is pretty freaking awesome. Now, I was a doubting Thomas with the whole idea of Clear. I got pre-check. I got my airline status. What else am I going to need, right? What?
What were you, a doubting Thomas?
Doubting Thomas. You never heard that?
I have.
Yeah.
About 37 years ago.
Well, you know how much
suburbs.
Right, I'm totally stuck in the 70s.
Go ahead.
Wait, a lot of my jokes are very focused on the 70s and 80s. God forbid I should do anything from 2019. But I will tell you, Anthony, when I go to the airport, I was like, I got this pre-check thing because I got to hook up with the government. They made sure that I always get on there.
You got hooked up with the government?
Yeah, the government totally hooked me up. I had lost my pre-check. This is a great story. I signed up for pre-check, and at some point, it just stopped working. Delta blamed the TSA blamed Delta. Nobody could help me out. And I was writing a column for a hotel industry magazine at that time, and I had a weekly column. And in it, I was talking about travel, et cetera, and I put in the article, hey, TSA, love you guys. If you're reading this, please help me. I'm having a lot of difficulty making my pre-check work, right? Didn't think anything of it.
And all of a sudden you heard a voice,
yeah.
Okay, Glenn.
Yeah, then I'm at a hotel conference, and I'm in Las Vegas, and I get a phone call from a PR buddy of mine, and he's like, hey, Glenn, the TSA is trying to track you down and find you. I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'm a nice guy. What do you mean the TSA is trying to track me down and find me? So I was a little nervous, but I gave the guy a call, and he goes, hey, I read your article in that magazine. And then after that, I gave him some paperwork. He hooked me up, and I've never been eliminated from PreCheck ever since that day. Happiest day of my life about 3 years ago. So I thought, I got all excited about the whole notion that I just have PreCheck and I've got my status and all's good. But then I found I started waiting on these PreCheck lines for 20 minutes sometimes, right? It would get stressful. And I got great diamond status this year from Delta, and they gave me clear, and I tried it out, and holy mazzoli, I am an absolute convert to it.
They gave you clear for free?
As a diamond member, yeah.
No, I've never been a diamond member.
Yeah. Well,
how does that feel?
I got to tell you, being a diamond member feels so
and I travel
freaking
a lot.
Awesome. Right now,
he travels more than I do.
I'm an only child, so I have this.
You couldn't guess that, right?
Yeah, I have this unusual sense of self-confidence and ego about me.
So what's your question?
There's no question. I'm telling stories.
Oh, you're telling stories.
Right. We're getting to the whole point of friction and clear. All right.
You're giving me friction.
Yeah, right. This conversation is a lot of friction for Anthony. Usually he's the one that takes over the whole conversation, but now that I've got your attention, it's too late. I'm just dominating the stage.
I'm going to sit down. Go ahead.
All right. So back to where I was with the friction. But no, all right,
keep going.
Anthony has left the stage. But I was just about to ask you a question, Anthony. So what I like about the whole idea of friction and removing friction from the travel process, it makes things easier. It focuses on a lot of those issues that we may not have actually thought about over time, but really do make a fundamental difference in our travel experience. And my experience with Clear has been dependability. I know that I could show up X amount of minutes before a flight and always get through that TSA line. I love it. I see people nodding out there. So it's not that Clear itself is so awesome. It's the confidence it gives me. It's the speed that I can get through the process. And these are the types of things that I think hoteliers need to think about. All of these hoteliers in the room are amazing professionals. Would you agree?
Yes, I have a question for you.
Yeah?
Are we sponsored by Clear?
No.
Oh, okay. Sounds like a commercial for Clear.
Yeah, Ken
but
Cornick.
You know what? I don't have PreCheck.
Ken Cornick, if you're listening, sponsor our show.
I didn't hear what he said. Yeah. I don't have PreCheck. And I've traveled so much the last so many years. And because I've always been a gold member for Delta, I haven't made diamond status.
And well, when you go from diamond status to gold status, it's like everybody loves you, and then they don't want to have anything to do with you anymore. It's very rough.
Yes, because I was platinum status for years, and last year I didn't travel as much, and I think beginning of January, or I think it was beginning of actually February, I was walking through, and a young lady says, "Oh, thank you for being a gold member," and I was like, "You're welcome."
Yeah, because they don't say it to you like, it's like, thank you for being a diamond member, but they're like, oh, thank you for being gold.
So Clear, I love Clear because I look at the PreCheck lines and I'm like actually coming here, there's 3 lines, the regular line, the Clear line, and the PreCheck line, and I was like, the Clear line looks like the emptiest line. Yeah. But for some reason, my fingerprints don't work.
Well, you got to the fingerprint thing is tough because you got to put your fingers at that right angle. They will tell you got to relax the wrists, right? You got to relax.
Okay, but I do, and it doesn't work. So it's just
I don't know.
You know what it is? You know what? When I was in the Air Force, there was a couple nights I had to burn my fingerprints. Maybe that's what it was.
Well, fortunately, they use the eye scans too.
So go ahead. So yeah, I love it because you go through really quick, and it's a great technology. And in speaking to the gentleman when we did the Forbes, when I moderated that panel, it was very enlightening because that technology is taking over the world in 5 years. But what was interesting about that was coming up in this industry, no one would give me a job in a 5-star hotel. And now they're asking me to do a moderated panel at the Forbes Travel.
Yeah, it's pretty weird thing,
right? It's pretty cool. Yeah, Cornell. I applied for Cornell University when I was a kid, and they wouldn't let me in, but now I teach a class called Build Your Personal Brand. So all you need is a TV show, and all of a sudden you got smart.
I know. It's amazing what TV can do for you. I hope to one day be on TV so people will think I'm smart too.
What are the things that typically cause us friction?
All right, so I actually have been thinking about this, and I very rarely take notes, partly because I'm too lazy and partly because I like to work on my feet.
Because you're only an hour from a nap and
I'm always an hour away from a nap and a sandwich and a nap, because I really find that the constant struggle to stay awake in life is very difficult. I like the coziness of bed myself. All right, but I've been thinking about the hospitality experience. And what are the things that might really annoy guests out there that they aren't sharing with you, that aren't talking to you about, but can be taken care of if you just reevaluate things? We've been talking a lot, Anthony, about the whole notion of maid service. It was a sacrosanct thing, right? And I've told this story before.
What did you say?
Maid service.
What should he say?
Sacrosanct. Never to be changed.
Housekeeping,
right? So
we don't have maids, we have housekeepers.
We've always done it that way because we've always done it that way, right? So, you think about where we're headed into the future. Some of the brands now are starting to take it away. And when I first heard about that, I was kind of miffed. I was kind of upset. I'm like, what the hell are they doing? They're cutting back on services. But then I thought about it, and I realized I don't get housekeeping service all the time. I don't like them intruding in my room. They always seem to knock on my door when I finally get back to do some emails, so I keep that do not disturb sign on there. I don't change my sheets every single day when I'm at home. All right, I don't change them every single year when I'm at home, but when I do, when I don't get the maid service, I don't miss that maid service.
Did you say housekeeping service?
Housekeeping service, yes. I forgot. Again, I told you, 1970s. I got to bring it into the to 2019. So another thing that I think about that is we've always been doing it that same way, but why do we do it that way? Is tucking in the stuff, the sheets under the bed. I remember that Seinfeld episode from the 90s where Costanza was stuck inside of it, right? That was pretty funny. So why do we do that? Just because we've been doing it, do we need to do that sort of a thing with the sheets tucked in the bed, Anthony? And by the way, I was thinking about this last night while lying in the bed and struggling to break free.
Well, see, I'm the kind of guy that slides
Great housekeeping, they know how to tuck.
See, I'm the guy that slides in from the top, so I like it like that.
Yeah.
That's me, right? Some people like that. Some people like the tight sheets. I like the tight. I slip in like an envelope. I like it. But what I think is more important, but I think is what we need to do as people in the industry is not do stuff just because you do stuff, right? So if I'm a general manager, or when I am a general manager of hotels, I don't tuck it in so tight on the top. So you can get in, and if you want to pull it out a little bit, fine. So I actually tuck it out a little bit less. But if you do that, it doesn't look as neat, right? So that's why you have turn-down service to make yourself get tucked in. But I think what we do as hoteliers, or really in any business, is we do things just because we're so busy doing so many things that we do things that don't make sense, right? I still want somebody to explain to me why in a full-service hotel I have to pay $8 for a bottle of water, but I go to a 3-star hotel, I get free water, free internet, free parking, free breakfast, free. I go to a big box hotel, and we're still fighting with this nonsense.
Yep.
Now, everybody in this room that works for big box hotels, I've worked for big box hotels, and I was the first person to ever put a resort fee in Orlando, so I took all the arrows, and I understand resort fees, we flow to the bottom line, so I'm all about resort fees, but I want to give value. So what I want us to do, or what I try to do more, is I try to think from a guest perspective. I'll give you an example. When I'm teaching a housekeeping supervisor how to inspect a room, you know what I do? I get on the floor after I put a towel down, and I stretch. And I literally do stretching exercises. Because if you stretch when you're in a hotel room and you're teaching a supervisor how to inspect a room, you see everything when you're on the floor. And a lot of people work out, do Pilates, yoga, whatever, in their room. And when they're laying on the floor and they're looking up and they're looking under the bed and they're looking at the cracks that you don't see when you come in eye level, you miss it. So I think what we need to do is we need to do less of stuff just because we're doing stuff and kind of take a back seat and just kind of watch what people, and ask. One of the things, when I worked at Embassy Suites in Overland Park, Kansas, which was the first Embassy Suites in 1986, the cocktail hour, when they first had breakfast, Embassy Suites, everybody said they were going to go out of business because, they have a cocktail hour and they give away free breakfast. That's crazy, right? Well, why do they do a cocktail hour? How many people work at a DoubleTree? Anybody? Not a DoubleTree, at Embassy Suites. Okay. Why do you do the cocktail hour? You do the cocktail hour to meet your guests. The salesperson is supposed to be there with their guests so they can listen to see what they want, and maybe they have new business coming in. So I always thought that was fascinating, and it taught me at an early age, listen to your guest. And I've written too many articles, in everything from the Associated Press, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, everything, about this problem with $8 water, internet charges, and at the end of the day, I think it pushes guests away. It doesn't bring guests away. And that's why we're having a problem, and I could be a little wrong, with the big boxes being profitable, because I think we're being penny-wise, pound-foolish.
What happens with that $8 water thing is I either wind up being offended and going across the street to the 7-Eleven and buying that water for $1 for a giant jug of it, or I go down to where the conference is being held, and I feel sorry for those poor conference organizers because I see it happen at every event that I go to. People are taking all the waters that the conference people are paying a fortune for, and it's really unfair to the conference people too. I don't understand why in 2019 it's still an issue that we need to give
Somebody
away
just
water.
told me a story. They were at the literally yesterday. They were at the Four Seasons Hotel in New York City, and they couldn't get a bottle of water. So what they did is when they went down to the fitness center, and they took all the water they wanted. Nobody delivered it to them. They wouldn't give it to them at the front desk without charging $30. Anyway, what's the next question you got there, buddy?
So I was thinking more of these things that really annoy guests. One thing that really annoys me, I'm a desk guy. I know that the hotel industry is trying to tell us that we don't want desks anymore. I'm not one of those people. I'll leave it to you 30-somethings to work without the desks, but I got to stick with that regimen. And I don't understand why the hotel chair and the desk don't ever seem to align, and I'm sitting there like this all the time trying to type, and I'm just putting my hands over my head for the audio people. It's just, why can't they match that out? It's something so simple, so easy, it rankles guests constantly. Why does that happen?
I've never had that problem. No, I'm just kidding. It's like anything else.
You don't ever have to take 2 or 3 pillows and put them underneath you in order to support you up?
How many people, honestly, forget about your hotels, how many people have walked into a hotel room in the last 12 months and said, they got it right, it's perfect? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. How many people, 4, maybe 6 people, how many people walked in a hotel room in the last 12 months and said, what the hell are they thinking? Raise your hand. Right? Okay, the number one problem in hotel rooms, I think a lot of people will agree with me, is mirrors, lighting. Lighting in bathrooms stink. Why can't we get lighting right? Why can't we get it right? Why can't we get the chair and the desk to align? Why can't we get a comfortable chair? Why do I have to prop myself up with 27 pillows on a couch and try to get comfortable? Why? The answer is because a hotel, from my perspective, a hotel is built on a real estate deal. Follow me here. If the real estate deal is the right deal and it's mortgaged properly and it's financed properly and you hire the right management company, and you're paying attention to your general manager, and your general manager and your construction and your owner are paying attention to your designer, and you hired the right designer for the right area, and they've done maybe some hotels before, and they've had some problems, and you get the general manager then to tweak that design because it's not aligning up with what they know. When you get everybody communicating, like we talked about before, then and only then will you get a perfect room. But too many times, I went to a hotel in Atlantic City 20 years ago. And I'll never forget as long as I live. A friend of mine ran it, and they go, hey, come down, whatever. I won't tell you the name of the hotel. I said, great. So I went there, we checked in, and there was they renovated the hotel. It was down for like a year, and they renovated it. It was like 7 people. Somebody went to them and said, okay, we're going to design this room here. You go get lamps, you go get mirrors, you go get lighting, you go get carpet, you go get bedding, you go get chairs. No one talked to each other. They came back and I was like, literally walked into this hotel room and I was like, what the is this? I said, are you kidding me?
Rating, Anthony.
So, no, I didn't say the word. And I was just like, when the general manager asked me what you think of the room, I said, it was wonderful. It's like, oh my God, this was a great room. It was beautiful. Who is your designer? It was horrible. So the problem is when you build a hotel, you finance a hotel, you open a hotel, you renovate a hotel, a lot of times people aren't communicating. Because if they were, you'd have lighting in the room that actually worked. I went to a 5-star hotel the other day and there was no outlet near the room. There was no outlet near the bed. How many people went to a bed this year in a hotel room, laid down, and you had to pull out the dresser?
Yeah.
Come on, in 2019?
Seriously.
What's the first thing you do when you lay in bed? You put your phone, right? Right there. I have 3 kids. My phone's on all the time.
Right.
I can't have my phone across the room. I need to make sure my daughter, who had a birthday party for a friend in college last night, was home at 1:30 in the morning, right? So I need my phone there. So that's frustrating. So those are the impediments. But to answer your question, I think it's because as a team, it doesn't always trickle down.
Right, it certainly doesn't. The whole outlet thing, I mean, I've been talking about this issue for my entire career, and everybody, just like you out there in the audience, nods their heads yes, 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 but it doesn't get fixed. Sometimes we see that sort of pseudo-fix where you've got the outlets that are on a lamp next to the bed.
And that's fine.
But a lot of times, those outlets have ceased working over time. So that's another pain point. Something that's easy to fix, something that really creates a lot of bugaboo for me.
I'll tell you why this stuff exists.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be popular right now.
Yep.
Because the general manager isn't doing their job.
Right.
Period. End of story. You know, I always say hotels don't go out of business because employees, they go out of business because of the owners. And a lot of times the hotels, obviously, the general manager runs the hotels. So it's because those things need to be important. We get so busy with budgets, we get so busy with forecasting, we get so busy with team meetings that we forget, oh, it's not in the budget. If I have to tell you, okay, that you need outlets next to your bed, and you can't figure out a line item to reduce another line item to get me outlets near my bed, and again, get me the lamp with the plugs, like there's something wrong. As a general manager, you need to figure that out.
Right.
And that's where it's like, to me, it's where it would be general manager, hotel manager, whatever it is, where they have to be able, I always say, I'm willing to lose my job over doing my job. I'm not willing to lose my job over doing the job you think I should be doing. I'm willing to lose my job over me doing my job. And if I have to get outlets next to the bed because I know I'm going to get nailed on it, you know, right now everything's transparent. You know, when TripAdvisor came out 20-something years ago, I was the person who was most excited about that because you couldn't throw comment cards away.
Right.
Right? So now I want to know that the guy overseas or the young lady overseas is going to see a client in New York that hates my hotel. I love that because it gives me complete transparency and it gives me an opportunity to be better. You know, I always say I just don't want to suck as much as I did yesterday. I want to get better every day. And I think the transparency...
I do hope one day you achieve that goal.
I do. So I don't think I will. So when are we going to open it up to questions? Because I'm a question guy.
You want to just jump into questions, but I think what we should do is I don't want to interrupt in the middle, so let's go.
We're going to go to commercial break.
Yes, we're going to go to a quick commercial break. We're recording here live at Stonebridge Companies Denver conference this year. We'll be right back after this message. Hey everybody, Glenn here. So listen to this. Cobblestone Hotels is celebrating their 10th anniversary, and man, have they accomplished a lot in the last decade. Already they have more than 150 hotels throughout the United States, but they're in smaller and medium-sized markets. Those markets that the big franchise companies, they're underserving, they're overlooking, and in some cases just ignoring. But Cobblestone is an expert in these markets. And their president and CEO, Brian Wagernes, listen, I've gotten to know him in the last 10 years, and he has worked every job possible, including being an owner and operator. I can personally vouch for how awesome this company is, how awesome he is as an individual, because he understands the importance of finding the right combination of hotel brand and franchise owner. He's also an incredibly dedicated professional. Whether it's a Cobblestone Hotel and Suites Main Street design, Borders Inn and Suites, or one of the newly acquired brands such as Boulders Inn and Suites, Key West Inns, Centerstone Inns and Suites, Cobblestone has brands that range from economy to upper mid-tier, and one that's right for you. Quite simply, Cobblestone Hotels is the franchise for franchise owners. Patrick Mullenix, well, he's Cobblestone's new president of franchise development. Give him a call or check out their website at cobblestonefranchising.com. But give Patrick a call. He's a great guy. I've known him for a really, really long time, too. You can find him at 920-216-0620. That's cobblestonefranchising.com. And tell him Glenn sent you. All right, and we are back. Let's hear it from you. All right.
I always say when we go to commercial break, I always say I enjoy that because he proves to me every single time that he can count to 10 on his fingers. He can count down. I love that. Go ahead.
Well, to be fair, Anthony, it took me a lot of years to learn that skill, so I like to show it off whenever I possibly can. All right, so we want to ask questions of the audience here. Have you guys asked us whatever you want to be. It could be about the Hotel Impossible show. It could be about
any
career development. It could be about anything super wonky about the hotel business itself, which I love to talk about. I can't stop talking about the hotel business all day, all night. My wife can't stand it, though.
You know, and I think, people in this room, everybody, we've been around for a long time. We all kind of know the answer to any question. So I may not know the answer, but somebody else in the room may know the answer.
Right.
So please ask a question. Anyone,
and if I don't know the answer, I'm just going to make something up and lie.
Raise your hand. Anyone?
All right. So who's got a question out there? All right, sir, over here. Microphone is coming down.
And just say your name and what your position is, please.
Dave Wheeler, Vice President of Hotel Operations, and I'd like to know your funniest hotel story.
Funniest hotel story.
Oh, I can't tell it in this room.
Yeah, that's a little.
I'm going to clean it up, but this is literally my funniest hotel story, and it wasn't on Hotel Impossible, although I have a lot of funny ones, more scary than funny. But this is a true story at a hotel in New York City. And I always mix up. I don't know if it was which hotel it was, Lucerne or the Algonquin. But anyway, my front desk agent is in the back office. I was the general manager, and I happened to be back there. He's talking to the supervisor, and there's a guest in a room, and he was a French gentleman, and he was very, very upset. And they were going back and forth, and I was like, what's going on? Why is everybody so out of control? They were half laughing, half upset, and he's like, the gentleman in whatever room it was is upset, and I'll say it this way, that the toilet level, the water level, was too high. And when he sat on it, things were soaking. Okay? And he was very upset in his French accent at our hotel. And I was like, okay, that's a problem. So the next morning we're in a stand-up, and I do a stand-up every morning, and then it was at the Algonquin, we were on the piano. And I always do my stand-up, to me, at the heartbeat of the hotel. And at this hotel, it was the cabaret. So we have our stand-up, and we're going around, and everybody's laughing. And I'm a pretty serious guy a lot of the times. And I was like, you guys think it's funny, right? You think it's funny. The guy is really embarrassed. You guys think it's a joke. He's our guest. Did anyone think about running up there with a towel? And then everybody started laughing. But that is my funny story. To this day, it's like, there's a couple other funny stories, but I'll leave that.
You remind me of Joe Pesci in a mob movie. Hey, you think I'm a clown?
Because I'm Italian from Brooklyn and I'm short and I look like Joe Pesci?
That's right.
I'm insulted. Is there a human resource director here?
That's right.
I'm insulted by that.
I have just made you a giant stereotype.
Actually, it's funny. One of the things growing up in this industry is being a guy from Brooklyn, having an accent and an attitude. How many people do you think wanted me to be general manager of their hotels? Right? Not a lot. And one guy named Ron Dome took a chance on me at the Lucerne Hotel, and the rest is history, as they say. But if you didn't have an accent and you didn't go to a school in Switzerland back when I was growing up, you weren't running 4- and 5-star hotels. Right. So thanks for bringing that up, Glenn.
Yeah, hey, my pleasure. So I don't know if I have a funny hotel story per se, but I find that a lot of times alcohol and the hotel experiences make people do things that they regret constantly. And I think my favorite experience was when I was standing in the lobby after an event that I was at, and I've been on the road drinking for a lot of years. I can handle it. This guy could not. Somehow confused the potted plant next to the check-in desk with a urinal.
With a men's room sign?
Yeah, that did not go over too well with him. All right.
So you got two funny stories, and they both have to do with toilet bowls.
Yeah.
Other questions? Please don't be shy.
We got one in the back. Please let us know who you are and your position, please.
Hello, gentlemen. I'm Ali. I'm the Human Resources Director here in Cherry Creek. And I want to know, what's the most inspiring piece of advice each of you have ever had or received in your careers?
Most inspiring piece of advice, Anthony?
I was I took over the Algonquin Hotel. It was 30 years that hasn't been turned around. And I was petrified. I've never worked in a union hotel before. I was only maybe 34. I've never worked in a hotel that was it was just so stressful. It was incredibly stressful. And I remember Dave Johnstone from Miller Global, who actually, Miller Global's headquarters is not too far from here. He hired me after much negotiation because I didn't want the job. I thought it was a career killer. And he said the words that changed my life. He looked at me, and I was scared as hell. And I said, I'll take the job. After a while, I decided to take the job. And I said, I can get teary-eyed telling you like how much this word meant to me. He says, never ask me for permission. Ask me for forgiveness. Changed my life, turned the hotel around, my whole career. I'm standing on the stage because of that advice. My whole life, no one's ever told me that. I was like, this guy's going to have my back. And every single time he had my back. And even when it wasn't hard to have my back, when it was hard to have my back, he took me after they sold it. He took really good care of me. I went down to Nickelodeon, and it was, again, we were going to get the name taken off. It was horrible. Everybody was fighting. We were losing money. And I remember those words because I still was working for him at the time. And I had asked 18 executives. We only had 19. And these executives were very high-paid executives. And I was the vice president. And I asked them, I said, I'm going to promote you to customer, which means you can come to Nickelodeon anytime you want. You just can't work here. So 18 executives I terminated over a 6-week period. I had one executive, which was my CFO, and all my mid-level managers. It was 1,500 rooms, 1,500 employees, 5 acres, and I had no executives. And Dave calls me up, and he says, we're coming down, because he's here in Denver, and I was in Orlando. I go, for what? He goes, because I heard you lost your mind. I was like, what do you mean you lost your mind? It's like, you've terminated everyone. I said, that's not true. A lot of people left. I said, so that's not true. I said, but dude, like 2 years at the Algonquin, we did what you wanted. You guys made money. It's me. Like the guy, don't ask permission, ask for forgiveness. Don't come down. He goes, we're coming down. I said, you come down, you get on the plane, I leave, I quit, I go back to New York. Trust me. He continued to trust me. We turned it around, and the rest is history. But so that's the best piece of advice, because it allowed me, talking about personal branding, it allowed me to be me. I wasn't rude, disrespectful. I wasn't yelling and cursing at people. I wasn't throwing chairs at people. I was simply asking people to do their job. I was asking people to come in and run this hotel the way we should. Security in a Nickelodeon hotel where it's all children is #1 priority. So our security needed to be tighter. Everything needed to be tighter. Matter of fact, we took our supervisor of entertainment, Ruben, is now, one of the most talented people ever, is the warm-up guy for Steve Harvey. So if you ever seen Steve Harvey shows, any one of his shows, and you see this little guy coming out and Steve Harvey's always making fun of, that's Ruben. And Ruben saved my butt at the Nickelodeon. And he made sure that my entertainment division was taken care of. But I trusted him, and he allowed, and Dave Johnstone gave me the permission to allow my team to do their job.
Yeah, I stayed at the Nickelodeon Hotel with my family once, and I'm curious if you were the general manager at the time.
Was it being run well?
My wife did not like the property.
I wasn't there.
Yeah. But she didn't like it because of the property itself. She thought it was just too many kids, too much noise. I'm like, why do you want to go on a family vacation if you don't like kids or noise?
I haven't met your wife yet.
What?
No, you
haven't.
Yet,
no.
But tell her, it's Nickelodeon.
Right. I know.
What would she expect?
Exactly. But one thing I did do is I got into a conversation with the people there, and I went over to the Lost and Found, and I said, what's the most unusual item that somebody has lost there? And they pulled out somebody's leg, a fake leg.
Oh.
How do you go home without bringing home your prosthetic leg? That I never understood, but that's my Nickelodeon story. As far as me, the best piece of advice that I may have ever gotten, and I'll talk about it more tomorrow when I talk about how to think like an owner and empowering your employees and all of that, is really to just be passionate with everything you do. Not fake kind of passion, but genuine passion. And if you don't have genuine passion for something, you're doing something wrong. You're either in the long line of work, you've got something that's ruining your experience with your home life, and you need to make those changes. Otherwise, it feels like work all the time. I love complaining about stuff, but I also feel like I'm the luckiest guy in the world because I know exactly what I want to do in my career, and I'm chasing that particular dream. And that is a great piece of advice that I got. And I think, secondly, is pay attention to those details. Everyone is so good at the big stuff, but when it really comes down to differentiating yourself and standing out amongst your peers and other professionals, are those little details. Those little things that we were talking about that can be changed in the room applies to every aspect of your life. Always get that email back to somebody. Always follow through. Always make sure that everything is proofread and corrected. All of those little things that you don't really want to do, that's where the difference takes place.
So let me ask you a question. On my business card, it says passion changes everything. On my tombstone, it will say passion changes everything. So I'm a true believer in that. However, people like me, I took a job because I needed a job. And I didn't know what I was going to do, and I wasn't the smartest kid in the classroom. And somehow I got into the hotel business, and I've been very fortunate and blessed. And it's my passion beyond words. But a lot of times, whether it be in the hotel business or other businesses, maybe you're 30 years old, 40 years old, you have a family, you have kids, you have a mortgage, you have a car, and you realize you're not in the right career field. There could be people in this room that are doing a job just because they're afraid to take the leap. How many people think that it was a good idea for me at 43 years old with 3 kids, a mortgage, and a reputation as being a fixer and doing pretty good in my career, making really good money, it was a good idea to take the leap of faith to go in the hotel business. To go in the TV business. And the reason I did was because I was tired of being a person that was controlled all the time. As much as I loved my job, I just felt like I needed a change. And I wanted to teach the hotel industry, and I wanted to teach this business and show how wonderful this business is. And I wanted to build my brand, and I didn't have billions of dollars to build it, so why don't I get a TV show? So with that leap of faith, and that was, when I tell you, beyond paralyzing, I cried. I almost had a nervous breakdown right before the show got picked up. I went through a year of trying to get the show picked up, went through a lot of money, and I was almost at my end, where I had to go take a job, and I felt like a failure. So it's easy to say passion changes everything, but how do you find that when you realize that you're not finding it? That maybe this isn't your passion.
Yeah, then you got to go and try to find something else and try to make peace with it.
But that's easy. It is easy. It's easy to say.
It's easy to say, but it's so difficult because if you have all those family commitments, it makes it more challenging. So what are you doing?
You've done it recently when you went from your career to doing your podcast.
Right.
How scary was that?
Probably the scariest thing that I ever did in my life. 3 years ago, January, I quit a job that paid me pretty darn decent. Enough that I was too comfortable to make proactive change in my life. I got stuck and I needed to make change. And it took me a full year in order to make that change happen, to visualize it, to create a plan, to convince my wife and my mom. I'm a Jewish guy, so I always got to report to those two people in my life, right? So I needed to get them on board with this. So it took a whole long time before I actually enacted that leap of faith and went off onto this journey.
And how many times a day do you doubt yourself?
I doubt myself constantly every single minute of every day, but that's just the burden of being a Jewish guy, I think,
Well, my point being is, most people in this room, because of the hotel business, if you feel that maybe you're in the wrong department or the wrong position, in the hotel business, you can do anything. So we don't have to leave this business. Right. Like, I'm in the television business. I'm very fortunate enough to do podcasts and speaking engagements. I have a revenue management business. I have a consulting business. And I'm still in the business very much, probably more in the business now than I've ever been. But I knew I needed a different department, so to speak. And that, to me, is the most important thing you can do for your team, your family, your client. But it's scary. And the answer is, when I do a lot of speaking at colleges, and one of the things, I was just at Boston University last week, and a kid asked me, how do I know this is the right business for me? And I said, when you wake up in the morning, what could you see yourself doing for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and makes you really happy? And they said, well, I like computer games. I said, then figure out something in the industry, maybe in Vegas, with technology that allows you to create gaming for our industry. If somebody said, I want to be an artist, okay, there's 5-star hotels, there's one in Spain, La Residencia, where they literally have employees that are artists. So in this industry, we can do anything we want. So it's easy to say, find your passion, but it takes a lot of thought, and you have to have something that if you don't have, you can't do it.
Right.
And what is it?
Right.
What is it? What's the one thing you have to have before you do it? Before you change, even a different department or a different hotel or whatever it is, what's the one thing you have to have?
I would say belief in yourself.
Nope.
What is it then?
You have to have the resources. You have to have a little bit of money, and we know what that fund's called, right? Okay? I won't even say what it is, but it starts with an F. And it's that fund that you need, even if it's a couple dollars, just to allow you. And you don't have to even change your career. Maybe you just change your hobby to make you a more passionate person.
Right.
So people say it all the time, find your passion. But it's easier said than done. But you have to believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. All right, next question from the audience. Yes, ma'am. If we could bring the microphone over to her. Excellent. Right. One's coming up right now. Again, please let us know who you are and your position, please.
My name is Stephanie. I am a revenue manager for the company. And my question is, when properties go through their peak season, what best practices do you have for them to maintain a high level of service?
You know I'm deaf. I can't.
Yeah, so am I. So I'm just going to pretend I know what she said. She said, during peak season, how can you maintain that great level of service?
Great question. I run hotels like I'm going out of business, okay? No matter how high or how low the profitability is, I always worry about expenses. I always worry about my guests. I always worry about my team, okay? So if I take that strategy, whether I'm at peak or whether I'm not doing so well, of every single day we've got to worry about our business going out of business, I don't worry about the peaks because I'm in a system that works. I'll give you an example. If I'm worrying about my employees and I'm getting rid of, like when I took over Nickelodeon, and I got rid of executives that were too busy, watering their carnations and walking around like they were important, and I started getting people in that really believed what I believed, that kid coming in deserves the greatest experience of his life. So when I put the right people in the right positions and we needed to notch it up and get employees, because now our busy season's going, they are creative. And in Orlando, anybody ever work in the Orlando market? Okay, finding housekeepers in Orlando is like finding a needle in a haystack. That Disney World gives their housekeepers $3,000. $3,000 if they stay for 6 months or 6 weeks. Okay?
6 weeks?
6 weeks or 6 months, I can't remember. I just was talking to somebody in Disney World a couple weeks ago, and I said, is that still going on? I said, absolutely. So it was so difficult to hire people down there. Now Disney's doing that, so now I'm at Nickelodeon, and everybody wants to work at Disney, okay? And they're giving $3,000. I can't afford that. So I have to ensure the most important thing that I have is resourceful department heads, resourceful managers, resourceful supervisors that take care of their employees in the good times and in the bad times. And if you do that, you can shift much quicker than any other organization. And I've been very fortunate that when I needed to shift, my team felt it. We had a meeting. They pushed me out of the way and go, we got this. And boom. So to me, it starts when you're not worrying about what season you're in. I remember the downturn in 2008, and I said there's a lot of managers, general managers, sales managers, that are going to lose their job because they're so busy taking phone calls they forgot how to sell. I'll never forget that as long as I live.
Right. Think about it now, Anthony. There are people that are in this room that have never been in the industry when it was a downtime. So there's no frame of reference.
Right. And the one thing that I've learned in order to basically, I think I've answered your question in a long way, but is I don't hire experience, unless it's a very technical job like a CFO or a director of revenue management. I hire potential. I don't hire experience. I want potential. I want people that love it. My greatest employee ever is Patrice, who outside Justin was Patrice, who he worked at McDonald's for 7 years. And when I was at the Plaza Hotel and I was tired of getting experienced people because they all stunk, I saw his resume and it said 7 years as a McDonald's supervisor. He was a young kid, I could tell by his resume. And I was like, wow, this kid's tough. If this kid can come from the neighborhood that we came from and work at McDonald's for 7 years and tell all his friends he was a supervisor at McDonald's, I want that kid on my team. He became a bellman. Best bellman the Plaza has ever seen. So I think that's what helps you ramp up or ramp down. Just really good people that have common sense and that get it, and that can really move. David Weidlich, like I said in what we were talking about before when I was doing the conversation with Jeffrey, when you just have to be, when David Weidlich said to me, either get on the train or don't get on the train, but you got to make a decision. And I don't really give a crap what you do. So when you have a team that is able to pivot, you don't have to worry about how do you shift, because it just automatically starts to happen. Because everybody starts looking at their budget and say, okay, we have to make this adjustment, that adjustment, and it just starts happening. But if you don't start with the right people, and if you're a general manager and you're not interviewing every single person in your hotel Eric Long at the Waldorf Astoria interviewed every single person and interviewed every single person in his hotel. And he had a lot of employees. And I learned that lesson. I interviewed, when I was at the Nickelodeon Hotel, every single employee. There were hundreds of people sometimes on a Tuesday afternoon until 11 o'clock at night waiting for me to interview them. Wow. Sometimes it was 2 seconds, sometimes it was 20 minutes. But I had to look at every single person. Now, most of my team already interviewed them, but I have to make the final decision. So I think that that's the most important thing, to be able to deal with that.
And in tomorrow's discussion, when I talk to you, I'm going to talk about the virtues of the stay interview and share some secrets on how you can make that successful. We have time for one more question. Yes, sir.
And then after that gentleman, that young lady is next.
Hi, I'm Dirk Sanderson with the Hampton Inn Suites. I'm seeing a trend where people need to leave their house less and less.
Right.
Food is being delivered to them on demand. All these things are happening. And I wonder how you see the future of the hospitality business and how that will play into that.
Well, I'm personally yearning for a day I never have to go outdoors again, and I can just stay inside.
But, and that's an amazing question, and kind of what we talked about before. Less amenities, more service. Less amenities, take care of people, because people don't care about amenities. Last night, first time ever, I forgot my razor, and I can only shave with a Mach 3. If I use the hotel's razor, I don't know if it's a good or bad one, but I'll cut myself. So it's 9 o'clock at night. The last thing I want to do is leave my room, and I'm like, oh my God, I got to go get a razor. So I called an Uber. An Uber picked me up in 3 minutes. I got in the Uber, took me to CVS, 7 minutes away. He waited for me because I had to plug it back in that I wanted a round trip. He brought me back in, and within 14 minutes, I had my razor and I was back in my room. So yes, it's working, and that's why I don't like when people talk about millennials. Every one of us needs the technology. So I don't think it's a bad thing. And that's why kiosks didn't work for a long time, because kiosks didn't help us. Okay, kiosks kind of impeded us from what you said is giving us more stress and more friction to get to our room, right? So I was at the Park MGM in Vegas last week, and a friend of mine runs it, and they put me at the Nomad, which is right next door. And I walk into the lobby and I see all these tablets, and they had my key ready for me. They checked me in right away, but I was like, I'm not standing there checking into a friggin' bunch of tablets. I ain't doing it. I don't care if they give me my key or not. I got to find somebody. But I looked up, and there's 4 or 5 people around with other tablets helping me and expedited my check-in. So they took the front desk out. There's no front desk. There's probably 20 pods with really big iPads. But they have enough people to facilitate where I'm not even really pushing the buttons. They're doing it for me. But he gets everybody, and the people that want to push the buttons, it's there. So I just think every single person in this room is going to be that person in 5 years that isn't leaving their house. Or I don't, like, when I travel, I actually had an office in Times Square. I don't have that office anymore. I work from home when I'm not traveling. Matter of fact, I work from my car, basically. And because of technology. So I think we have to embrace that. And if we stop worrying about millennials and stop worrying about these kids that want their own brand, and we start embracing that and embracing them and giving them flexibility and allowing them to be their own person, I think that we will then be able to be prepared for when everybody wants a little bit more technology in their room and a lot less amenities.
Yeah, so let me add what I love about what they're doing at Park MGM with that is they've retrained their people to understand who we happen to be there separately, but at the same time. So I got a tour of the property, and I was fortunate enough to do an interview for the No Vacancy podcast with Patrick Miller, the president and COO, all about transforming the property from a plain vanilla Monte Carlo to something that's exciting and vibrant. But one of the things they did at the front desk, besides eliminating, is retraining those people to read who wants to be left alone and who are the folks that need that hand-holding to enhance their overall experience. So it didn't eliminate jobs, they repurposed jobs in the spirit of enhancing in customer service and personalizing that experience. All right, we're so almost out of time, but we do want to make sure that you ask your question.
Sorry. Shay Pacheco, Director of Sales. My question is, with technology, we have a lot of different people that will never interact with a single associate at the hotel. They can get to their rooms without going to the front desk. They can book a meeting, all without interacting with an actual person. So what are your thoughts about how we can showcase great service to those that are using technology for what it's worth?
there's less opportunities to show how good we are. So in those moments, we have to show how great we are. And if you're walking down the hallway and a housekeeper smiles at you and wishes me a good day, boom, that's what I want. So kind of like the 10-4 and more that I talked about before. There's less opportunities, but we're always walking past guests. If we're just saying hello and we're smiling, that's it. You know, that's it. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's very simple. The problem with this country today is we're yelling at everybody. I have strong opinions, okay? Does it mean that your opinion that's just strong on the other side, that you and I should scream at each other? Matter of fact, if you do scream at me, I'm going to walk away from the conversation because I'm not going to deal with someone that's screaming at me. So I think we have fewer opportunities to talk to each other. So when we talk to each other, we've got to be more patient. You know, that coach that's going to give his NFL players 20 minutes for social media, I can joke about it, but if that works for him and somehow he can get his team wrapped around him and they can win the Super Bowl, then he's a genius, right? So he knows his team. Right? I wouldn't potentially do that, but he knows his team. So I think there's fewer opportunities to show true leadership, and when you have that, you've got to make sure you do it. And you have to be patient, and you have to be, if you don't like change, I love change. I can live anywhere in the country. What's your favorite? Anywhere. I didn't think I could. I can live anywhere. I can probably do almost any job. As long as I'm around like-minded people that like getting up in the morning. If you don't like getting up in the morning and you're in a bad mood, don't be around me. I don't like people who are in a bad mood. Like, because I have a lot of problems, you have a lot of problems, we'll have a lot of problems. You know, it's like, this is my personality, my attitude depends on you, right? So if this is my personality, my attitude depends on you, and you're in a bad mood, you're going to get me in a bad mood, and you don't want to be around me in a bad mood. So we have very few opportunities to do extraordinary jobs, and that's when we have to do it. So if there's a person at the front desk, that person's got to be the most trained person in the industry, in the hotel, because you may not see anybody else after you see that person.
Right, and I'll just say that I think the most important touch point in the hotel in the future is actually going to be the bartender. I say that half facetiously, but I think that's one place where we're going to really have that one-on-one contact that can make a difference. All right, so we're going to wrap up the show. We like to end each show by asking each other, Anthony, tell me something I don't know.
I had hair once.
You had hair?
Yeah. I was actually born like a beetle. I had so much hair. Before I had children, I used to race cars. I used to like racing cars. So I went up to Pocono Raceway and used to race cars all the time. And now I haven't done it in about more than 10 years. And one day I was going around the racetrack, and they were very intense, the trainers. I'm going around like 160 miles an hour around the racetrack. They throw the flag, and instead of going around the turn the right way, I went into the pit. Okay, and anybody knows anything about racing, you go through the pit at about 100 miles an hour, that's not a good thing. So they throw the black flag, they bring me in, and I'll never forget it. I roll down my thing, and I put up my visor, and the guy looks at me and goes, I'm going to remember you for the rest of your life and for the rest of my life, because I've been teaching how to race cars for 30 years, and nobody ever came into the pits 100 miles an hour. You came in the wrong way, and I remember going, uh-oh. And the entire 3 days that I was there racing, every single person was watching me because they were afraid I was going to kill somebody. So that's something you didn't know.
No, I didn't.
I was that guy. You know when you don't want to be that guy? I was that guy.
Yeah. So something that you don't know about me is I've finally learned that lesson that you talked about a little bit earlier about asking for forgiveness rather than asking for permission.
What did you do? Your wife didn't get mad at you?
I went out and I bought myself a really expensive grill, which I've been having my eye on for the last year. And I got it. I ordered it. She asked how much it was. I told her how obnoxiously expensive it was. And she looked at me and she says, you should have asked me, but it's okay. So I feel like I won. Finally, 17 years of marriage. I got a barbecue. I'm a happy guy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Really appreciate it. I'll be back tomorrow. Let's hear it for Anthony Melchiorri over here. One more time.
Thank you. Let's hear it for Glenn.
Thanks, guys.
It's checking in with Anthony and Glenn, teaching you to be the hotelier that you wanna be. It's checking in